The Oblivion's Edge cruised silently through the void, a sleek Zenithan patrol ship on a routine mission along the outer rim of the Empire's vast territory. It was a task of monotony, monitoring sectors where nothing ever happened. Commander Zelen, seated in the command pod, idly scanned the holographic displays that mapped the star systems under their jurisdiction. Energy signatures holding steady, the AI navigator announced in its cold, mechanical tone. "Nothing out here but the silence of the void," Zelen muttered, his metallic fingers tapping against the armrest of his seat. He found solace in this quiet, far from the politics and complexities of Zenthra Prime. Suddenly, the calm shattered. A piercing alarm echoed through the ship, and the holographic display lit up with violent flashes of red. "Unidentified object detected," the AI reported. Zelen straightened, his body rigid with attention. "Origin unknown. Object is traveling at 0.8 light speed. Trajectory indicates direct entry into Zenithan territory." Zelenar's silver eyes narrowed. An object moving that fast and with no identifiable origin was a rare anomaly. "Visualize it." The display shifted, showing a jagged, metallic projectile hurtling through the vacuum of space. It emitted no recognizable signals, no attempts at communication, nothing to suggest its purpose beyond its ominous path. "It's not a ship," Nor observed. "A probe, perhaps? A weapon?" The AI's response came with unsettling efficiency. Composition analysis, high-density alloys. Energy signature suggests advanced propulsion system. Warning: power levels indicate potential for catastrophic impact. A wave of unease swept over Zelenar. The Zenithan Empire had faced countless threats over its millennia of rule, but none from the small, insignificant species inhabiting the lesser planets. Could this object belong to one of the outer colonies? Or was it something new? "Activate deflector shields," Zelenar commanded. "Prepare an intercept team." Before the crew could react, the object's trajectory shifted. It accelerated, now moving at a speed that defied known physics. The AI's voice turned urgent. "Collision imminent in 30 seconds. Deploy countermeasures." Zelenar barked. Plasma turrets sprang to life, firing precise bursts at the object. Yet each shot dissipated harmlessly, absorbed by a shimmering barrier surrounding it. The metallic projectile grew larger on the screen, its angular design reflecting the faint glow of distant stars. 20 seconds, the AI intoned. Zelenar's mind raced. What species could have built this? It's not Zenithan. It's not any known power in the galaxy. Who would dare? The projectile struck. The ship rocked violently as a blinding light engulfed the bridge. Zelenar barely had time to shield his eyes before the energy waves surged through the vessel. Systems shorted, consoles exploded, and the AI fell silent. Then came the singularity. The projectile's detonation unleashed a gravitational anomaly, an artificial black hole that consumed the Oblivion's Edge in seconds. Zelenar's last thought was not of fear, but disbelief. Who could have created such a weapon? Across the Empire, the destruction of the Oblivion's Edge did not go unnoticed. The Zenithan Communications Network, an intricate web connecting thousands of systems, was flooded with reports of an unknown entity entering their territory. On Zenthra Prime, the heart of the Galactic Empire, the High Council convened an emergency session. The council chamber was a grand hall of crystalline architecture, its walls pulsing with an iridescent glow that mirrored the neural network of its occupants. Supreme Strategist Veilroth stood at the head of the table, his towering silver form radiating authority. The holographic image of the destroyed patrol ship floated before him, a stark reminder of the unthinkable, a Zenithan vessel, obliterated in seconds. "This is unprecedented," Veilroth began, his voice calm but laced with an undercurrent of tension. "No species has ever penetrated our defenses with such precision. The object's energy signature is unlike anything in our databases." A younger council member, Zarakel, spoke up, her tone dismissive. Surely this is a rogue colony or a malfunctioning artifact from one of the lesser civilizations. Humanity, perhaps? The primitives of the Sol system. A murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber. Humanity was a joke among the Zenithans, a species barely crawling out of their planetary cradle. Though they had shown potential, their technology was centuries behind even the most minor galactic powers. Humanity is irrelevant, Zarakel continued. They remain confined to their solar system, squabbling over petty conflicts. They are incapable of— Enough, Veilroth interrupted, silencing her. He gestured to the hologram. The image shifted, showing a live feed from the edge of Zenithan space. A fleet of ships had appeared, emerging from the void like predators stalking their prey. They were dark, angular vessels, their surfaces bristling with weapons. Their design was alien, unfamiliar, yet hauntingly deliberate. The room fell silent as the transmission crackled through the feed. The voice was human. This is Admiral Sarah Kovacs of the United Human Fleet. To the Zenithan Empire, we have come to reclaim what you stole from us. Surrender or face annihilation. The transmission ended, leaving the Council in stunned silence. Humanity's challenge. Back on Earth, the situation was vastly different. 50 years earlier, humanity had been an isolated species, limited to their single planet and rudimentary space exploration. That all changed with the discovery. An alien vessel had crash-landed in the Nevada desert, its advanced technology buried beneath layers of Earth's crust. For decades, the ship's secrets had eluded scientists. But one breakthrough led to another, and within a generation, humanity had leapt forward by millennia. The most shocking revelation wasn't the technology itself, but what it revealed about humanity's past. Ancient records within the ship indicated that Earth had been a Zenithan experiment, a testing ground for genetic modifications and resource exploitation. Humanity's history of unexplained advancements and sudden leaps of innovation now had a sinister explanation. The Zenithans had been interfering all along. The discovery united humanity in a way nothing else could. Governments and factions put aside their differences to focus on one goal: retaliation. Admiral Sarah Kovacs had risen to prominence during this new age. A former military officer turned revolutionary leader, she had lost her family to the wars caused by Zenithan interference. For her, this wasn't just a mission, it was personal. Make no mistake, she told her officers as they prepared for the invasion. The Zenithans view us as lesser beings, but we've outgrown their chains. We will show them what humanity is capable of. The fleet launched, leaving Earth behind and entering the stars with one purpose: vengeance. The Zenithan Empire, unaware of humanity's transformation, had considered the Sol system a backwater. But now, their arrogance had blinded them to the storm brewing on their borders. And the storm had arrived. The Zenithan Empire, a seemingly invincible force ruling the galaxy for millennia, was shaken to its core. Reports of the human fleet's devastating efficiencies spread like wildfire. The Empire's outer colonies, accustomed to Zenithan dominance, now faced attacks from a foe they had considered beneath notice. Humanity had not just entered the galactic stage. They were rewriting the rules of war, a new kind of warfare. The first major confrontation occurred at the edge of Zenithan space, near the system of Valerian Prime, a key resource hub. The Zenithans had scrambled to intercept the human fleet with a battle group of 100 warships. The Zenithan dreadnought Vanguard Eternum, a kilometer-long behemoth bristling with plasma cannons and ion disruptors, led the charge. From the bridge of the Vanguard Eternum, Admiral HFY studied the tactical display. The human ships were smaller, their designs angular and inelegant compared to Zenithan vessels. HFY's confidence bordered on arrogance. After all, no species had ever challenged Zenithan supremacy and survived. They lacked sophistication, HFY declared, gesturing to the screen. Primitive hulls, outdated propulsion systems. This battle will be swift, but the humans had come prepared. The human fleet moved with an unnatural precision, their ships forming unpredictable attack patterns. Instead of directly engaging, they danced just outside zenithal weapons range, forcing the dreadnoughts to waste energy on futile volleys. Suddenly, without warning, the human ships disappeared from the zenithal scanners. Where did they go? KRYXR demanded. Before the zenithans could react, the human fleet reappeared in their midst, having used advanced warp drives to bypass the enemy's formation entirely. What followed was chaos. Human ships unleashed a torrent of kinetic projectiles, traveling at relativistic speeds. These weapons, simple in concept but devastating in execution, bypassed zenithal energy shields entirely. Unlike plasma or energy-based weapons, which could be absorbed or deflected, the sheer mass and velocity of the projectiles tore through hulls like paper. "Shields are ineffective," a zenithal officer cried. "Impossible," KRYXR bellowed. "Focus fire on their lead ship." The zenithal fleet tried to regroup, but the humans had already shifted tactics. Utilizing advanced stealth technology, they vanished again, only to reappear in another vulnerable position. By the time the battle ended, the zenithans had lost over 70 ships, including the Vanguard Eternum. For the first time in centuries, the zenithal Empire had suffered a decisive defeat. The Empire reels. News of the Battle of Valerian Prime spread rapidly. On Zenthra Prime, the High Council convened in a state of panic. Supreme Strategist Veilroth addressed the gathered leaders, his normally calm demeanor replaced with urgency. "We are not facing a conventional enemy," Veilroth began, projecting a hologram of the human fleet. "Their technology is unconventional, but it is highly effective. Their warp drives are faster than anything we possess, and their weapons bypass our defenses entirely. Are you suggesting humans have surpassed us technologically?" Zarakel interjected, her voice tinged with disbelief. Veilroth fixed her with a piercing gaze. "I am suggesting that we underestimated them. Decades ago, they were primitive. Something has accelerated their development. We must determine the source of their advancements and stop them before they reach the core worlds." But even as the Council debated, humanity continued its relentless assault. Colony after colony fell to Admiral Sarah Kovac's fleet. The Zenithans, who had long relied on their reputation for invincibility, found their forces demoralized and their strategies obsolete. The human perspective. On board the flagship Resolute Dawn, Admiral Kovacs reviewed the latest tactical reports. The victories were piling up, but she remained focused. "We've breached their outer defenses," said Commander Elias Trent, her second-in-command. "Their colonies are in chaos. Some are surrendering without a fight." Kovacs nodded, her expression unreadable. "Good. But this is just the beginning. The core worlds will be far better defended." Trent hesitated. "Admiral, some of the colonies we've taken, the Zenithan civilians are begging for mercy. What are your orders?" For a moment, Kovacs was silent. She thought of Earth, of the centuries of suffering humanity had endured because of the Zenithans. Their genetic tampering, their manipulations, they had robbed humanity of its agency, its history. "We show no mercy to their military," she said finally. "But civilians, they're not our target. Humanity is better than they ever gave us credit for. Make sure our troops know that." Trent saluted. "Understood, Admiral." But not all of humanity shared Kovacs' restraint. Splinter factions within the fleet, driven by anger and a thirst for revenge, began taking matters into their own hands. Reports of atrocities, entire Zenithan settlements wiped out, began to surface. Kovacs knew that if she couldn't maintain control, humanity's moral high ground would be lost. The Zenithan counterattacked, desperate to regain the upper hand. The Zenithans deployed one of their most powerful weapons, the solar lance. A relic from a bygone era, the solar lance was capable of destroying entire planets by harnessing the energy of a star. It was a weapon of last resort, and the High Council was divided over its use. "This is madness," Zarakel argued. "If we use the solar lance, we risk destabilizing the very systems we govern." Veilroth silenced her with a raised hand. If we do nothing, there will be no empire left to govern. Humanity must be shown the price of their defiance. The solar lance was deployed to the Sol system, its target clear, Earth, the defense of Earth. Admiral Kovacs had anticipated the Zenithans would target Earth. While the bulk of her fleet continued its campaign in Zenithan space, she left a substantial force to defend humanity's homeworld. When the solar lance arrived, it was escorted by an armada of Zenithan warships. The human defenders, vastly outnumbered, prepared for a desperate battle. Admiral Kovacs, the solar lance is charging, reported a young officer aboard Earth's defense station. We estimate 5 minutes until it fires. Kovacs' voice crackled through the comms. All ships, focus on the escorts. We can't take out the lance unless we break their formation. Human ships engaged the Zenithan fleet in a furious melee. The battle was chaotic, with explosions lighting up the void as ships on both sides were destroyed. Meanwhile, a small team of human saboteurs, led by Commander Trent, boarded the solar lance. Their mission: disable the weapon before it could fire. Inside the massive structure, the Zenithan crew fought fiercely, but the humans pressed on. Trent and his team reached the core chamber just as the weapon prepared to fire. "Overload the core," Trent ordered. "But, sir, that'll destroy the entire station, and us with it," protested a soldier. Trent's jaw tightened. "Do it. Humanity depends on us." The core was overloaded, triggering a catastrophic chain reaction. The solar lance erupted in a massive explosion, taking half the Zenithan fleet with it. The human fleet was now within striking distance of Zentra Prime, the jewel of the Zenithan Empire and its political and military capital. The once proud empire was unraveling, its colonies in rebellion, its fleets in tatters, and its leaders divided. But humanity's greatest challenge lay ahead. Zentra Prime was the most fortified system in the galaxy, protected by fleets, orbital defense platforms, and planetary shields powered by ancient Zenithan technologies. Admiral Sarah Kovacs stood on the bridge of the Resolute Dawn, her flagship, staring at the tactical hologram of Zentra Prime. Its golden oceans and crystalline cities were a stark contrast to the blackness of space. "Status report," Kovacs ordered, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. Commander Elias Trent's replacement, Lieutenant Naomi Voss, stepped forward. "Our scouts report that the Zenithan defensive fleet numbers around 500 ships. Orbital platforms are active, and their planetary shields are at full power. They've activated something new, an energy field surrounding the entire system. It disrupts our warp drives." Kovacs nodded. "They're cornered. They know this is their last stand." "But it's a fortress," Voss replied, her tone grim. "We can't just charge in." Kovacs turned to the crew, her gaze fierce. "No fortress is impenetrable. The Zenithans have spent centuries believing no one could challenge them. That arrogance is their weakness. We've taken everything they've thrown at us. Now, we finish what we started, the battle for Zentra Prime." The human fleet emerged from warp at the edge of the system, their ships fanning out into battle formations. The Zenithan fleet awaited them, a wall of shimmering vessels bristling with weapons. Leading the Zenithan forces was Supreme Strategist Veilroth himself aboard the Eternal Dominion, the largest dreadnought ever constructed. "Human fleet detected," the AI aboard the Eternal Dominion announced. Veilroth observed the human ships with a mixture of disdain and grudging respect. "They've come far, but this is where they fall. Activate the planetary disruptors and prepare the fleet for full engagement." As the Zenithans powered up their defenses, humanity launched its first wave of attacks. Smaller, agile corvettes darted toward the enemy lines, drawing fire away from the larger ships. Missiles streaked through space, weaving between the beams of plasma and energy bolts. "Focus fire on their carriers," Kovacs ordered, her voice cutting through the chaos of battle. The Resolute Dawn led the charge, its railguns firing devastating volleys that tore through Zenithan ships. The human fleet, though smaller in number, used its superior maneuverability and advanced stealth systems to sow confusion among the Zenithan forces. But the Zenithans were not without their own strategies. The Eternal Dominion unleashed a wave of drones, swarms of small, automated vessels that overwhelmed human ships in seconds. One by one, human ships were consumed by the relentless assault. "Admiral, we're losing the flanking units." Voss called out. Kovacs gritted her teeth. "Pull them back. Focus on the central formation. If we can break their line, we can get a strike team to the planet." The infiltration. While the battle raged in space, a small team of elite human operatives prepared for a daring mission. Their target, the shield generators on Zenthra Prime. Without them, the planetary defenses would fall, leaving the planet vulnerable to orbital bombardment. The team's transport, a stealth ship cloaked in experimental human Zenithan hybrid technology, slipped past the chaos above and descended toward the planet. Among the team was Captain Amina Raynor, a veteran of countless battles and one of humanity's most skilled operatives. The insertion team, led by Captain Amina Raynor, had successfully penetrated the atmosphere of Zenthra Prime. Using a stolen Zenithan clearance code, the stealth craft skimmed undetected through the planetary defenses, heading for the primary shield generator, a colossal structure the size of a small city, nestled within a canyon of jagged crystalline cliffs. Inside the craft, the team reviewed their plan one last time. "The shield generator is powered by a core deep within the facility," Raynor explained, her voice calm but firm. "Our mission is to overload it, but the Zenithans will have defenses everywhere. We'll be outnumbered and outgunned. Stick to the plan, and we'll make it out alive." "Understood." The operatives nodded, their faces grim but determined. They were humanity's best, handpicked for their skill and resilience. "Touchdown in 2 minutes," the pilot announced, maneuvering the craft into a hidden crevice near the generator. The transport landed silently, its hull blending seamlessly with the surrounding terrain. The team disembarked, moving quickly through the rocky landscape toward the generator's outer perimeter. Zenithan patrols prowled the area, their crystalline armor glinting in the faint light of Zenthra's twin moons. Raynor signaled for the team to halt, scanning the patrol routes. "Take them down quietly," she ordered. The operatives moved like shadows, dispatching the Zenithan guards with precision. Within minutes, they had breached the outer defenses and entered the labyrinthine halls of the shield generator. Inside the shield generator, the interior of the facility was a blend of alien beauty and cold efficiency. Pulsing energy conduits ran along the walls, illuminating the corridors with an eerie, shifting glow. Zenithan glyphs etched into the surfaces seemed to hum with power. "Keep moving," Raynor urged, leading the team deeper into the structure. They encountered resistance almost immediately. Zenithan soldiers, alerted by the breach, descended on the intruders with plasma rifles blazing. The humans returned fire, their advanced weaponry compensating for the enemy's numerical advantage. "Grenade out!" one of Raynor's operatives shouted, tossing a device that released a pulse of electromagnetic energy. The Zenithan soldiers' weapons shorted out, giving the humans a crucial opening. "Push forward," Raynor yelled, rallying her team. After a brutal firefight, they reached the core chamber, a vast, spherical room dominated by a pulsating energy core suspended in the center. It radiated an almost blinding light, its energy fueling the planetary shield above. Raynor activated her comm, Admiral Kovacs. "We've reached the core. Beginning the overload sequence now." "Understood," Kovacs replied. "You don't have much time. Zenithan reinforcements are converging on your position." Raynor nodded to her demolitions expert, who began rigging the core with explosives designed to destabilize its energy matrix. The process was painstaking, and every second felt like an eternity. The doors to the chamber suddenly exploded inward as a squad of Zenithan elites stormed in. These warriors were larger and more heavily armored than the standard troops, their crystalline bodies shimmering with enhanced energy fields. "Hold them off!" Raynor shouted, taking cover and opening fire. The battle was fierce. The Zenithan elites were nearly impervious to human weapons, forcing the operatives to use every tactic and tool at their disposal. One by one, members of the team fell, their sacrifices buying precious time. Finally, the demolitions expert called out, "Charges are set. We need to move." Raynor fired one last burst at the approaching Zenithans before retreating with the remaining operatives. As they sprinted through the corridors, an explosion ripped through the facility, sending shockwaves that knocked them off their feet. The shield generator was destroyed. The fleet's final gambit. Above Zenthra Prime, the destruction of the shield generator was immediately apparent. The shimmering barrier that had protected the planet for centuries flickered and collapsed. "Shield is down," Lieutenant Voss reported on the Resolute Dawn. Kovacs wasted no time. "All ships, focus fire on the planetary defenses. Open a path for our ground forces." The human fleet launched a relentless assault. Orbital platforms were obliterated in blinding explosions, and Zenithan ships fell one after another. Despite heavy losses, humanity's determination carried the day. "Admiral, the Zenithan fleet is breaking formation," Voss said. Kovacs nodded. "They know they've lost, but the battle was not yet over." The Eternal Dominion, the flagship of Supreme Strategist Veilroth, remained operational. Its weapons targeted the Resolute Dawn, unleashing a barrage of plasma that rocked the human flagship. "Admiral, we can't take another hit like that," an officer shouted. "Kovacs, clench your fists. Redirect all power to forward shields. Prepare to ram them if necessary." Before the Eternal Dominion could fire again, a squadron of human bombers swooped in, targeting its engines. The Zenithan dreadnought was crippled, its massive frame drifting helplessly. The Zenithans surrender. With their defenses shattered and their fleet in disarray, the Zenithans had no choice but to surrender. On Zenthra Prime, the crystalline cities that had stood as monuments to Zenithan supremacy now lay in ruins. Supreme Strategist Veilroth, his pride and his empire in tatters, stood before a holographic projection of Admiral Kovacs. "You've won, human," Veilroth said, his voice heavy with bitterness. "But tell me at what cost? You may have destroyed us, but the galaxy will not forgive what you've done." Kovacs met his gaze, unflinching. "The galaxy will learn what happens when you treat an entire species as pawns. Humanity will decide its own fate from now on." Veilroth bowed his head. "Then finish it. Take your revenge." But Kovacs hesitated. She thought of Earth, of the countless lives lost in this war. Revenge had driven humanity this far, but it would not define their future. "No," she said finally. "This isn't about revenge. It's about freedom. Surrender your remaining forces, and the war ends here." Veilroth stared at her, disbelief flashing across his face. Slowly, he nodded. Aftermath. The war was over. The Zenithan Empire had fallen, and humanity stood victorious. But the cost was immense. Entire colonies had been reduced to ash, and billions had perished on both sides. Admiral Kovacs returned to Earth a hero, but her heart was heavy. She knew that humanity's survival depended not just on their strength, but on their ability to rebuild a galaxy torn apart by war. In the days that followed, humanity began reaching out to the remnants of the Zenithan population, offering aid and a chance at coexistence. It was a risky gamble, but Kovacs believed it was the only way to ensure lasting peace. As she stood on the observation deck of the Resolute Dawn, watching the stars, Kovacs allowed herself a moment of hope. "Maybe," she whispered to herself, "we can build something better." The galaxy had changed forever, and for the first time, humanity was no longer a species defined by its limitations, but by its limitless potential.